نبینا صلی علی محمد صلی علی حبیبنا صلی علی محمد صلی علی رحیمنا صلی علی محمد صلی علی کریمنا صلی اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على السلام حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
I was speaking about the expeditions in the lifetime of Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, and I will mention some of the remaining battles that took place. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, may Allah be pleased with him, under his leadership they took place. It is possible today's Friday sermon may be longer than normal so that the actual subject matter can end. The Battle of Hira. This was in Rabiul Awwal, the 12th year after the migration or Hijri. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid went from Arishia. It is said regarding this that from Arishia he went towards Hira, and near the river Euphrates there was an ancient place of the Arabs, and Hira's leader at the time was Iranian or Persian. The leader of the Persians understood that now the army of Hazrat Khalid would come in his directions, and so he began preparations for battle. And he had also gauged that Hazrat Khalid would come with the sea route to reach there, and he would reach there by embarking on ships and boats. So he told his son at the river to block the route of the river so that the ships would therefore be stuck. And then outside of Hira he placed his troops. When Hazrat Khalid from Umayyah set off, and with his spoils of war and his battle-ready material, he embarked on the ship. Then because of there being less water, because they had reduced the amount of water, the enemy, Hazrat Khalid became extremely worried. So then it was told that the streams had been blocked or closed, and therefore the water had gone in other directions. Until the streams are blocked, we will not be able to get water in this direction. Upon this, he took a contingent and went towards Hakim. There at the side of the river of Atik, there was a skirmish that took place with the enemy contingent. They did a surprise attack upon Hazrat Khalid when he was not aware. Hazrat Khalid ended the life of all of them in response, and he advanced forward. He saw that Hakim, the son of Hira, was supervising the work of reducing the level of the water. They made a surprise ambush upon him, and they were able to kill him and his enemy, and they were able to return the water to its level, or to return the water to the river. Then he remained there and supervised everything himself until the boats and ships were able to continue in their journey. Then Hazrat Khalid gathered together all his commanders, and he arrived them in Khwarnak. Khwarnak is a fort near to Hira. However, when Hakim came to learn that Ardashir had died and his son had also been killed, then he fled along the bank of the Euphrates River. But despite Hakim fleeing, the people of Hira did not flee, and they fortified themselves in the fort. There were 4 forts here, and they remained fortified in all the forts, and they remained ready for battle. It is said that Hazrat Khalid bin Walid surrounded the forts in this way. Zirar bin Azvar, he was appointed for one of the forts to surround it. Ayas bin Obes at the Dunay fort was appointed. Zirar bin Khattab to the Siyin fort was appointed to surround it and besiege it. And Zirar bin Mukarrin to the Bani Mazin fort was appointed to besiege it and surround it. And there was another leader of the enemy was there. Musannama bin Harisa to the Muqayla fort was appointed to surround it and besiege it. Hazrat Khalid sent an instruction to all his commanders that first of all he should invite the people to Islam. If they accept Islam, then accept it. Acceptance. However, if they reject, give them 1 day respite, and then they give instruction, and he gave instruction that do not give the opportunity to the enemy, in fact kill them after this time, and do not stop the Muslims fighting with them. The enemies, that is, kill the enemies, and the enemies decided to fight. The Muslims sent a volley of arrows, and eventually they conquered the fortifications. There were priests there, and they said, "Oh, people," there were Christian priests there, and they said, "Do not kill anyone except us, them." They tried to incite the people, and they tried to motivate, the enemies tried to motivate one another to kill the Muslims. And there were different songs and anthems that were made to try and incite them. So then they gave conditions upon which they said to open the fort. Then the commanders of the enemies came forward, and then Khalid met them, and they tried to reconcile. And they expressed regret, and they said, "It is sorrowful upon you. What did you think by competing with us? If you are Arab, then why are you fighting your own people? And if you are non-Arab, then do you feel that you can fight against such a nation who has no parallel in terms of expending justice?" So the other commanders of the enemy accepted to give the jizya. Hazrat Khalid felt that these Iraqi Arabs, as a result of being Arabs, would certainly accept Islam. However, he was extremely surprised when they remained insistent to be Christians. Hazrat Khalid, may Allah be pleased with him, to the residents of Hira and the Muslims, wrote a pact, a treaty, in which he said, "In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the merciful." This is that treaty which is between Khalid bin Walid to Adi bin Adi, Amr bin Adi, Amr bin Abdul Masih, Ayas bin Qabisa, and Hiri bin Akal. It is between them. This is with the leaders of Hira, and the residents of Hira are accepting of this treaty. And he gave them instructions that 190,000 dirhams should be given, which every year should be given for their protection and safety. That is, for the safety of the local people, this jizya was appointed. That the worldly possessions that they have, whether they are monks or priests, however, those people who have nothing, who are separate from the world, this treaty is on this condition. And if they cannot take care of their protection, if the Muslims cannot secure the protection of these people, then they will not be obliged to give the jizya. If they trespass this, if they break the treaty will be break. This was written in the 12th year after the migration in Rabiul Awwal. This was given to the people of Hira, this treaty, and after the demise of Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, when the people of Savad became apostates, then these people broke this treaty and they did not follow the terms of the treaty, and they also accepted disbelief. When Hazrat Musanna, during the caliphate of Hazrat Umar, reconquered Hira, then the same treaty was placed but Hazrat Musanna did not accept it. And he placed a different condition. When Hazrat Musanna was vanquished in certain places, he also had to suffer some defeats. Then, once again, these people accepted disbelief. Then they broke the treaty and they did not accept the terms of it. When Hazrat Sa'd conquered Hira once again, then they once again wanted the treaty to be accepted, and Hazrat Sa'd said, present one of the two treaties. But those people remained bereft of presenting it. Hazrat Sa'd then decided they should be evicted. And after investigating their wealth, then he also placed a fee of 400,000. When Hira was conquered once again, Hazrat Khalid led the victory prayer, in which there were 8 rakats or units. That there were 8 rakats or units in a row. Then once this was done, he said, the battle of Mu'tah, in it when I fought, at the time 9 swords were broken by my hand. I have never fought any nation with which I have fought like this one, which are amongst the Persians. And I have not fought any amongst the Persians like the people of Unes. Then it is written that they also sent some gifts to Hazrat Khalid, but with Hazrat Khalid, with the good glad tiding of the victory and this gift he received, sent it to Hazrat Abu Bakr. Hazrat Abu Bakr also, giving a lesson of great justice and fairness, all these gifts, he counted it amongst the jizya. And he wrote to Hazrat Khalid that if you count these gifts amongst the jizya, it is fine. Otherwise, do not accept these as gifts, he meant. In fact, they were accepted as jizya. The Muslims, to the local people of Hira, also displayed great generosity. Seeing this, the landowners and farmers and leaders accepted to give the jizya, and they accepted to be subservient to the Muslims. The victory of Hira proved to have great long-term positive consequences. They also came to believe that Persia would now be conquered, because the geographical location of the area in terms of the border of Iraq and also Persia, this place had great significance. This great general of the Muslim army was made the leader of this place, and from here they had a unique base from which they could defend and also strategically be positioned in the best way. And he also made it a central place of making the disciplined organization of the prisoners. From there, he also made it a center, and he also appointed various leaders of making the jizya applied, and he also applied borders of different regions so that he could defend against the enemies and secured the borders. Here he stayed, and he was able to reinforce the authority and also the organization and arrangements. This came to be known by the leaders, and the leaders of the enemies one by one came to reconcile with him, because they saw that these people are gaining victory after victory, and they decided that the only way was reconciliation, and no one was left in Iraq or otherwise who had not done reconciliation with the Muslims. Hazrat Khalid for 1 year remained in Hira, and then before he left towards Syria, then he also visited the various regions of the place, and he made the various people the leaders amongst the Persian lands. So that is, in those areas of Persia, there were leaders who were made and they were removed by their own people. When Iraq was conquered, and between Hira and another location, from the Arab lands, there was no longer a threat of the Persians attacking. So then Hazrat Khalid directly decided resolutely he would attack Iran. And then by the Khosrows dying, the emperor of Iran, there was also a vacuum of security in Iran. And there was a great disagreement in the appointment of the successor to the death of the emperor. Availing of this vacuum of authority, Hazrat Khalid wrote letters to specific people, and directing these leaders, he said, from Khalid bin Walid to the Emperor of Iran, Amma Ba'd, after this, Allah, to whom all praise belongs, who has broken your authority, your schemes have been destroyed, and disorder and disagreements are now rife. Your power has now been weakened, your wealth has been removed, your victories and respect have been absolutely annihilated. So when you receive this letter, it is better you accept Islam, and you will remain secure and safe. Otherwise, reconcile and accept giving the jizya. If you do not want to accept Islam, reconcile, and be accepting to give the jizya. If you do this, then to you and your area we extend this, that we will leave your area and go somewhere else. Otherwise, we swear by God, but the God who has no equal, I will bring such an army to you who loves death just like you love life, and who have so much love with the afterlife with which you have the same love with which you have of this life. And he wrote these letters to the various leaders of the Persians, and he said, from Khalid bin Walid to the leaders of Iran. This letter to the people of Iran: accept Islam and you will be accepting, or give the jizya. We will be responsible for your safety otherwise. Otherwise, remember, I have such an army behind me who desire death to the same degree with which you desire alcohol. From the victory of Hira, there was a desire of Hazrat Abu Bakr fulfilled in terms of conquering Iraq, which was the wish to conquer Iran directly or attack it. Hazrat Khalid, in just a short period of time, had arrived in Hira in fulfilling Hazrat Abu Bakr's mission and gaining victory after victory. And in 12th of Muharram, or the 12th of the year after the migration, Hira was conquered in Muharram. Then there was the war of Anbar, which was also mentioned, which happened in the 12th year after the migration, or in Hijri. The Persian army very near to Hira in Anbar and Al-Tamr had also already set up camp. Anbar was also a city near to there. Anbar, it is written regarding its name that in Arabic, Ammar also means something which has the capacity to take the possession, and this is called Anbar because there were food and drink available and other such possessions in abundance. And Al-Qamar is in the west of Kufa, another city. It is said that the Islamic army had a lot of threat by the presence of the Persian army there. If Hazrat Khalid had remained quietly in Hira and did not confront the Persian army, then there was a serious threat that the Muslims of this area in Hira, where they had conquered, would actually have to vanquish it, would actually have to lose it from their hands as a result of inaction. So therefore Hazrat Khalid bin Walid gave instructions to prepare. Hira and its surrounding peripheries, when he came to know of its situation and peace had been established, Hazrat Khalid left Hazrat Kaka bin Amr Timi as his deputy in Hira. Hazrat Ayaz bin Ghanm, for his support, he set off Hazrat Khalid bin Walid. Hazrat Ayaz bin Ghanm, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq had sent him from the north of Iraq to conquer, and he had been instructed to join with Hazrat Khalid bin Walid. The leader of the Anbar was a leader. He was a leader of this army in his time. He was considered to be very clever and wise, respectable, and he was a non-Arab who was loved by everyone. Sabat is also a famous place in Madain. It is said the people of Anbar fortified themselves, and they had dug a trench around the fort which had been filled with water to make a moat. And this fort was very near to the wall. If any Muslim came near to it, then the soldiers, with great excellence, fired their arrow and forced the Muslims to retreat. These people were in the condition that Hazrat Khalid told his advanced army part to reach there. They made a patrol around the fort. They took an assessment of the defensive capabilities of the fortification, and they made a very wise plan and strategy. Hazrat Khalid went to his archers, and he appointed 1,000 of these archers who were excellent markspeople in firing the arrows, and he advised and guided them that I have assessed that these people are not familiar with all the principles of war. You should make their eyes the target of your arrows. Do not fire anywhere else. So they fired hundreds of thousands or thousands of arrows, and then 1,000 eyes were hit. And this is why I call Zatul Uyun as well, the war of the eyes. The enemy then raised a hue and cry, and the people of Anbar's eyes kept on being lost. But the Hakim of Anbar, he also made a great, phenomenal defense. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, taking some weak camels and horses, went to some of the tight areas around the forts. He sacrificed and slaughtered the camels and put it inside the trench. He filled the trench to such a degree with these dead animals that it formed a bridge. Now the Muslims were able to cross this and reach the enemy. The enemy then fortified themselves inside, ran inside, because the Muslims were able to cross. Then Hakim came to Hazrat Khalid bin Walid to reconcile and said, with a contingent, with some riders, with some possessions, enable me to leave here in safety. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid accepted his request. Now here this is also worthy of notice that historians and biographers who raise this allegation against Hazrat Khalid, that Hazrat Khalid also spread lots of barbarity in his actions and used to induct massacres and lots of bloodshed. Now here they should reflect that in this intense war, in this fierce war, and despite the enemy not accepting reconciliation after repeated attempts, they gained victory. When the enemy accepted safe passage, he gave 3 days safe passage to leave the fort and did not even want any conditions. So therefore, this is clear proof and evidence that this allegation against Hazrat Khalid that he was unjust is completely untrue. When Shirazaz reached to Bahman Jazvi and informed him of all the latest developments of what occurred, he said to Shirazaz that this is sorrowful. Shirazaz says, I was amongst such people who were bereft of any intelligence and who are amongst the genealogy of the Arabs. He was indicating towards the people of Anbar, the Arab tribes he was indicating towards amongst them. And he was saying they had no familiarity with war. Shirazaz said, I have heard that the Muslims, without worrying about their animals, were not concerned and attacked them. That is, they were not caring for their own lives. And when any nation does not care about its own life, then victory becomes compulsory for it. So when they confronted and fought our army, they were able to kill 1,000 eyes. And then I realized we had to reconcile. When Hazrat Khalid bin Walid and all the Muslims were satisfied with the situation in Anbar, and the people of Anbar were fearful and came out, then Hazrat Khalid bin Walid saw that these people were writing in Arabic language and read Arabic. And he asked them, who are you people? And they said, we are amongst the tribes of the Arabs. And we came to these people of the Arabs when they were populated this area before us. And these Arabs who came before us had come under this pledge, a previous pledge. When they gave the permission of the Arabs to be independent, they remained here. Hazrat Khalid asked, who did you learn to write Arabic from? They said, we learned from the Arabic tribe Banu Ayad. After this, Hazrat Khalid reconciled with the people of Anbar. Then the Battle of Tamar, this also took place in the 12th year after the migration or Hijri. It is said that when Hazrat Khalid was alleviated from the Battle of Anbar and it became entirely under his possession, then the nearby locality of Tamar, he also then took his attention there, which is between Iraq and a part of Syria, is located. From Anbar to Tamar, it took 3 days to travel. From the Persians, the leader, Hakim Nahran bin Balam, was present. With a large group of non-Arabs, he reached here with this army. Apart from the Persian soldiers, various Arab tribes were also present, whose leader, Akka bin Abi Akka, was their leader. When the people heard about Hazrat Khalid's arrival, Akka said to Mehran, you know well how to fight the Arabs, so leave us with Hazrat Khalid. He felt that we know how to fight the Arabs, and Mehran said, you are right. You are experts and experienced in how to fight the Arabs as we are with the non-Arabs. So he gave a deception, he deceived Akka, and he saved himself in this process. And he said, you go ahead and fight him, and if you need us, we will come and support you. When Akka went to fight Hazrat Khalid, the non-Arabs used very bad language against him and said to Mehran, what made you accept that you say this to him? And he said, leave me. I said what is better for you and what is worse for Muslims. Certainly, that person is coming to you who had even killed your emperors. They said regarding Hazrat Khalid bin Walid that he has killed our leaders and you are ready for him to come. He is a great general. And he has destroyed your glory. So therefore, he said, I have sent Akka to fight them as a shield between us. If they gain victory against Hazrat Khalid, then it will be your victory. And if the opposite occurs, then you will not be going to fight the Muslims, but you will be in a state, or if you fight them, at least they'll be in a weakened state, and we'll fight the Muslims in this weakened state, and we will be stronger and they will be weaker. Hearing this, they acknowledged the superiority of the opinion of Mehran. Mehran remained in Ain al-Tamar, and Akka went to fight Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, or he set up camp on the way. Akka was arranging his ranks when Hazrat Khalid came and attacked and arrested him. And his army, without even fighting, retreated and accepted defeat, and many of them were also imprisoned. When Mehran came to learn of this, he took his army and retreated, and they left the fort. When they reached to the fort and took fortification, Hazrat Khalid besieged them and surrounded them. Upon this, they wanted peace, but Hazrat Khalid did not accept this. They accepted this and put down their weapons, and they were made prisoners. Akka and those people who were present in the war against the Muslims, they were all killed. And those who were in the fortress, they were imprisoned. The possessions that were left in the fort, that was taken as spoils of war. They found 40 boys there who the Christians had made into subservient. They have importance in Islamic history because from amongst their children, such great people were born who in their pledge and in preludes to come after were fulfilled it. Muhammad bin Siri's father, Siri, Musa bin Usair's father, Nusair, and Hazrat Osman's freed slave, Humran, were also present amongst them. Siri were the people of Iraq. In the Ain Quttamar, they were imprisoned. And Hazrat Anas, they became the slaves of Hazrat Anas bin Malik. They had accepted or gained their independence. The son's name was Muhammad bin Siri, who was well known in the area, and in commentary and in hadith and interpretation of dreams, he was a leader. Muhammad bin Siri was his son, who became imprisoned in the war, and later he gained his independence or freedom. Then there was Nusair. He was the father of Musa bin Nusair. He was amongst the prisoners of Banu Umayyah. The Banu Umayyah had freed some people. He was, because of his son, became well known. Musa bin Nusair in the south of Africa gained fame. And when Tariq, he also played a huge role in establishing Muslim governance in Spain. Then Humran bin Awan in the Ain Tamar was amongst the prisoners, was a Jewish individual. He accepted Islam. Hazrat Osman had freed him. Hazrat Osman, he was amongst those who were very close to him. In the 31st year after the migration, he became the leader of Basra for some time, and then he became well known amongst the Banu Umayyah. Hazrat Khalid gave the good glad tiding, and the Khumus, the 1/5 that's reserved for Allah and His Messenger, was given to Hazrat Abu Bakr. Ammar and Ain Tamar, after the victory, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid to Uqba gave Khumus, the 1/5 portion, part of it, and gave the glad tiding. He arrived in Medina and informed Abu Bakr of all the updates and said that Khalid left Hira and Anbar Ain Tamar. The reason why he fought there, because 1 year he had already stayed in Hira. Abu Bakr had given him an instruction that he stay in Hira, but in any case he did this, and he considered that in those circumstances that was the best course of action. And they did not know when Ayaz would be alleviated from his work and would reach Hira to support Hazrat Khalid. There was a delay. Ayaz had not arrived to reinforce. Hazrat Khalid had become fed up of this, what he thought was slackness, and he thought that the Muslims are becoming disheartened. If the enemies kept coming knowing of Hazrat Khalid's developments, they would avail of the weakness of Ayaz and they would cause harm to the Muslims. Then the Battle of Dumatul Jandal. This also took place in the 12th year after the migration or Hijri. Dumatul Jandal from Damascus is 12 nights, or from Medina 15 nights. That is according to the travel modes of the time. This is a city in Syria nearest to Medina. Hazrat Ayaz bin Banam to Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, sent him to this place, and for a long period of time he had to face the enemy. Therefore, he could not meet Hazrat Khalid. When Hazrat Khalid to Majid bin Utbah gave him the information of the victory of Hira's Ain Tamar, then he sent him to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr became worried about Ayaz. So therefore to Walid bin Utbah he sent him to support Ayaz. When Walid bin Utbah came to Hazrat Ayaz and saw that Hazrat Ayaz had surrounded the enemy, and the enemy had surrounded them and had stopped their path, Walid bin Utbah said to Hazrat Ayaz, sometimes in fighting a larger enemy, sometimes a word of wisdom is more important. He sent a messenger, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, and asked him for help, he said. Hazrat Ayaz did not have any route except to accept the suggestion of this person, because there's 1 year before he had reached Jumatul Jambal, and there was no sign that he would gain victory here. Hazrat Ayaz followed the advice of the messenger. When the messenger returned to Hazrat Khalid bin Walid to seek help on his behalf, at the time Tamar had been conquered. So he sent a short letter to Hazrat Ayaz through the messenger that he should alleviate his worry. The letter had said, wait a bit, I will send some riders to you, upon which there will be lions, and the swords will be glistening, and army after army contingent will reach you. Then to Domatul Jungle, it is said regarding Hazrat Khalid's going there, when Hazrat Khalid was alleviated from the victory of Ain Tamar, then Ovem bin Kahil Aslami, he made him the leader in his place over there. And he, with his army himself, which was in Ain Tamar, they went to Nimatul Jandal. It was a distance of 300 miles that Hazrat Khalid and his army completed in less than 10 days. The people of Dumbal found out that they were coming. They asked for support from their allied tribe. This tribe, with another tribe, reached to Dumatul Jandal. And it had swelled up to even greater numbers than when previous year Hazrat Ayaz had reached there for the expedition. Dumatul Jandal's army was split in two big parts. There were two generals of the army. One was Uqaydar bin Abdul Malik, and the other was Judi bin Rabi'a. When they came to know of the arrival of Hazrat Khalid, then there was a disagreement between the two leaders. Uqaydar said, I know Khalid very well. Nobody is greater than him, and nobody is braver than him and a better swordsperson. Whichever nation fights against Hazrat Khalid, whether they are less or more in number, they will most certainly suffer defeat. Accept my advice and reconcile with them. However, the other people disagreed with this. Upon this, Uqaydar said, I will not support you in fighting Hazrat Khalid. What you do is up to you. Saying this, he left. Hazrat Khalid came to learn of this, and to stop his path, he sent Asim bin Amr. So he did not accept reconciliation but was leaving there. Asim said, take me there. When he was brought to Hazrat Khalid, and he took Uqaydar and took all his possessions. So he made him prisoner. And what was the reason of making him a prisoner? This question is brought. After Uqaydar was in prison, why was he killed? And the reason is given for this, that at the time of the Battle of Tabuk, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, sent him to Uqaydar. He imprisoned him and brought him to the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. The Holy Prophet showed him favor and left him alone, and made him write a treaty. But after this, he broke this treaty, and he also rebelled against the government of Medina. After this, he came back to his people, and Hazrat Khalid came to learn of this, as I have said. And to Asim bin Amr, he sent him to imprison him, and then they imprisoned him. And because of his previous breaking of the treaty, Hazrat Khalid instructed to kill him, and he was killed. In this way, Allah the Almighty, because of his breaking of the treaty and rebellion, made him end his life. We also came to know that he was imprisoned and brought to Medina. And during the Caliphate of Hazrat Umar, he gained respite, and he went from Medina to Iraq. And at the occasion of Ain Tamar, he remained there till the end. There are two, narrations regarding this. Regarding the people of Duma, there is an incident. It is said that Hazrat Khalid came forward and reached Duma. In Duma, he took Ayaz's army. The other people who had come to accept, they were on the outside of the fort because they could not fit inside the fort. When Hazrat Khalid had satisfactorily arranged the ranks of the army, then the leaders of Duma came outside the fort and attacked Hazrat Khalid. There was a ferocious battle that erupted, and ultimately Hazrat Khalid and Hazrat Ayaz, they were able to defeat the enemy. Hazrat Khalid to one leader, Judi, and Akra bin Khabis had arrested them, who were leaders of the tribe of Kalb. The other people remained inside the fort, but there was not much space inside it. When the fort became full, the people inside left people outside and closed the door of the fort. As a result, the people outside became surprised and shocked that they had been thrown out. Asim bin Amr said, "O Banu Tamim, now to your allied tribe, Kalb, help them and give them security, because you will never get an opportunity like this again." Hearing this, the Banu Tamim helped them. At that time, Asim, because of his protection, the tribe of Kalb was saved. Hazrat Khalid to the people who were outside the tribe, and so many people were killed that the door was stained. And Judi and other people were also killed. Only the people of Kalb remained because Asim and Akra and the Banu Tamim had been given protection. Then Hazrat Khalid patrolled around the door of the fort until finally they decided to break it open. The Muslims entered the fort. The people who had fought in the battle were killed, and the others, non-combatants, were imprisoned. After this, Akra bin Khavis was instructed to go back to Anbar, and in Domatul Jandal he remained him same. By gaining victory in Domatul Jandal, the Muslims gained a very strategic battle war position, because Domatul Jandal was located on such a path where there were 3 different paths that emanated. In the north, there was Iraq. In the south, there was another place. There was Syria, there was Iraq, and there were other countries in north and south. Abu Bakr and his army were also in Iraq and were at the borders of Syria. This was the reason that Hazrat Ayaz had not moved from Domatul Jandal. He remained there firmly for so long for this reason, and he had waited for Hazrat Khalid to arrive. If Domatul Jandal had not come under the possession of the Muslims, then there were still dangers that the Muslims would have to face in Iraq. Then the battle of Husayd and Khanafis. Husayd is between Kufa and Syria, is a small place, and Khanafis is near Anbar, located near to Iraq. It is said that Hazrat Khalid bin Walid to Domatul Jandal was based there, and the non-Arabs were busy in engaging in rebellions against him, against Hazrat Khalid and against the Muslims. At the end of Akka, the Arabs had schemed with the non-Arabs from Baghdad, Zahir and Ruzba went towards Anbar, and both of them decided to engage with Usair. In Hira, the deputy of Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, Hazrat Kaka bin Amr, had heard this news. So therefore, to Abid bin Fadaqi sent him towards Usair. And Urwa bin Ujad was sent towards Nafis. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid came to know. Hazrat Khalid decided to come there, but when he reached there and he came to know of the developments, to Kaka bin Amr and Abu Layla, to Ruzaba and Darwe, he sent him to fight him in that location. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, Imra'ul Qais Kalbi, was there. The letter of his came, and they were there in the time of the Holy Prophet. During the period of Hazrat Abu Bakr, they also remained firm upon Islam. They received a letter that Huzail bin Imran to Musayyih and to Rabi'ah bin Hujair, Sani bin Bishr, had gathered together their enemies. and to Ruzaba Zahir they are going to them to fight them. Learning about these developments, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid immediately to Hazrat Ayaz bin Ghanam appointed him his deputy in Hira, and himself personally he dispatched to Hanafis to go there. He chose the same route which Kaka and Abu Layla had also taken. In Ain al-Tamr, he met both of them. There to Kaka and Amir, he made him the leader of the army and sent them towards Usaid. And to Abu Layla sent him to Hunafis. And to both of them he instructed that the enemies and to those after them, gather them together in one place. And if they do not gather, attack them. When Kaka saw this as Ahmer and Muzaffar, they were not moving from their positions. So he then went towards Usaid. In this time, that the Arabs and the non-Arabs leader was Uzba. When he saw that Kaka were coming towards him, he to Zahir Mir, he asked him for help. Zahir Mir, he appointed a deputy in his army and himself went to Ruzba to support him. Husaid, they both in their location, they fought with great ferocity. Allah made a large group of the non-Arabs to die. Kaka and Zahir Mir were killed, and Uzba was also killed. In this time, a lot of spoils of war were gained. Usaid came forward, and in Hunafis they all gathered together. The battle of Hunafis, regarding it, it is said that Abu Layla took his army and all the items they received, took it and went towards Hunafis. Usaid's defeat, he went towards the deputy of Zahir Mir. When he came to know of the arrival of the Muslims, he left Hanafis and went with all this to Musayyikh. There, the leader was Ulail. Then Abu Layla was unable to do this, and despite all these victories, were given news to Hazrat Khalid. The Battle of Musayyikh, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, that the people of Usaid and Khanafis, he came to know that these people had fled. And to Hazrat Kaka and Abu Layla and Abid and Urwa wrote them a letter. And in the letter, he said, he gave them one time and position and said to all come and meet in Musayyikh. Musayyikh is between Uran and Kalb. Uran is near Damascus. It is a large place where there is a lot of fields. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid from Ain al-Tamr left there, and on the appointed night, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid and his commanders in Musayyikh attacked it, and Huzail and upon all the battalions were attacked from 3 different directions in 3 different contingents, and Huzail was able to save his life and flee. During this battle, 2 such Muslims of the Islamic armies were fought who were present in Musayyikh, and with whom Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, had also had a trust from him kept. When Hazrat Abu Bakr came to know that they were killed, he gave the blood money. Then Hazrat Umar said, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid said he should get punishment for this action, that they have been killed. Hazrat Umar was very impassioned that why were the Muslims killed. But Hazrat Abu Bakr replied, that Muslim who in the enemy land is living there, then there is no surprise that this may occur. Albeit, Hazrat Abu Bakr, to the upbringing of their children, he gave instructions to how we should take care of their families, of those who were killed. Sani and Zumail are also, Zumail is a place. It is also mentioned. It is near a place called Sani. Akka, who was killed in Ain al-Tamr, in the passion of getting revenge of his death, Rabia went to Sani and Bishr. And Hazrat Khalid in Musayyikh to Kaka and Abu Layla sent them before him, and appointing a one night and said everyone should go towards Musayyikh and should attack the enemy from 3 different directions. After this, Hazrat Khalid from Musayyikh, then passing through different localities, reached to Zumail. Hazrat Khalid went from Sani. There, both of his companions and the other two armies met, and all three of them, from three different directions, attacked the armies of Rabi'a. And those people who had gathered together to fight with great glory, they were able to end their lives. People were not able to run properly. The women were imprisoned, and the Khumus was sent to Abu Bakr, the 1/5 that is reserved, and the rest of the spoils of war were distributed amongst the Muslims. Ghuzail, who in the battle of Musayyah had saved his life, according to his promise, he joined the army of Rubaiyah. Now once again he fled and wanted the protection of another Atab with a phenomenal army was in Bishr. Before that this news reached to Rubaiyah, Hazrat Khalid also attacked him from three directions, and in this battle so many people were killed, and a lot of spoils of war came into the hands of the Muslims. Hazrat Khalid, amongst the spoils of war distributed amongst the Muslims, and the Khumus, the 1/5 reserved, that is sent to Hazrat Abu Bakr. Hazrat Khalid from near to Bishr, a locality that went towards Zab. There Hilal was the leader. When Hazrat Khalid came, they separated from the army, and Hilal had to retreat, and the Muslims, without any fighting or difficulty, were able to seize Rozab. Then the battle of Firaz, it is said regarding it. Firaz is between Basra and another place, and there are the parts of Syria that come through here. This was between the Muslims and the Byzantines that took place in the 12th year after the migrations. This is why it is called the Battle of Firaz, and is well known to be. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid had arrived there, and in this he had to fight many people on the way. Hazrat Khalid also was not able to keep the fast of Ramadan. And the news of all this information had spread in Iraq of all these victories, and the people who were living became extremely fearful of Hazrat Khalid. They placed their weapons, and they considered it their safety to give themselves up. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, along with his armies, with the river Euphrates, also started going towards the north, and wherever he reached, people reconciled, and people accepted obedience to him. And finally they reached Firaz, where the borders were all matching. Firaz is located in the deepest north of Iraq. If the people had supported them, and if they had defeated Nomatul Jandal in the beginning, then Hazrat Khalid may not have arrived, because Abu Bakr's was not to conquer all of Iraq and Syria. He only desired that in both these countries, the borders that bordered with the Arab lands, there should be peace. And the Byzantines, the Persians, and so on could not attack, but Allah so willed that both these countries should totally come under the governance of Muslims, and therefore such means were therefore created for the Muslims that Hazrat Khalid was able to reach the northernmost regions, and in this way for the Muslims from all directions a path opened to attack Syria. And the Persians, and such a path, a miracle was made for a path to open, that Abu Bakr could never ever envisage that this could actually occur. And it was under such a leadership of whom that the Arabs, and Abu Bakr said that there was no other mother who could create a person like Hazrat Khalid. For 1 month he had to stay there, Hazrat Khalid, and here as well he showed such bravery and courage and steadfastness and resoluteness that there is no parallel. He was surrounded by enemies in all directions. The west, the east, there was the Persians. In the west, there were the Byzantines, who thought that if we do not suppress Hazrat Khalid at this point, then this flood would never be stopped. And in the east, the Persians were hell-bent on enemies. There was only the Euphrates between them, and apart from this, in 4 directions there were different tribes. And they had killed the various leaders, and Hazrat Khalid had lit a flame of revenge. In this sensitive the predicament, he could have come back to Hira and increased his authority. And then, after gaining his strength, then fighting the Byzantines could have been a possibility. Yet, he did not choose this path because he saw the enemy before him. It was not possible for him to remain patient when the enemy was so near. And his condition and his temperament was such that even the impossibility was become possible. He felt that anyone could be defeated. And he never considered the great glory of the enemies before, and neither did he now. So with great satisfaction and contentment he prepared his army for battle. The Byzantines had not fought Hazrat Khalid, and they were unaware of the intensity of his strategies and battles. When the Islamic armies gathered in Firaz, and for 1 month they remained there, they became very passionate. And they asked for the Persians nearby, the enemy did. So the Byzantines asked the Persians for help, and the Persians gladly accepted, because the Persians had been humiliated by the Muslims and their glory had been entirely suppressed. So they were happy to join with the Byzantines. Namr and the other Arabs tribes also fully decided to support the Byzantines, because they were angry at the killing of their previous leaders at the hands of the Muslims. So the Byzantines, the Persians, and the different Arab tribes, of which a huge army consisted, set off to fight the Muslims. At the river Euphrates, they sent that you should pass the river and cross us, or should we pass the Euphrates river and reach you? Hazrat Khalid responded, you should come towards us. You have come to fight us, so come to us. So the enemy army passed the Euphrates river and started coming across the other bank. During this time, Hazrat Khalid arranged the ranks in an excellent fashion, and he prepared them greatly. When the battle began, then the Byzantine general instructed his army that all the tribes should become separated, so that we can come to know which group is going to fight in the best way. So all the contingents and the battalions all became separated in the various group leaders, and the battle began. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid instructed his army that they should surround the enemy from 4 sides, and they should make them gather in one way, and they should flank them, and they should attack them in such a swift lightning movement that they would not have a means to do something. This is what occurred. The Muslim armies flanked all the enemies and caused them to come into one place, and then they swiftly attacked them. The Byzantines and their allies thought that they were able to fight the Muslims in different contingents, and they were able to delay the battle even further, and the Muslims would become exhausted. And when they became exhausted, they were able to spring a full attack upon them. However, this thought proved to be a fallacy, and their strategy rebounded upon themselves. When the Muslims were able to flank them and cause them to come into one direction and swiftly attack them, they were unable to repel these attacks. They quickly were defeated, and they decided to flee the battlefield. But the Muslims were not going to leave them, and they pursued them, and they were able to kill them far off. All historians unanimously agree that in this battle, in the Battle of Field, that 100,000 enemy were killed, or in the army. After the victory, Hazrat Khalid in Firaz stayed for 10 days, and in 12 years after the migration, he to Hira sent his army, instructed them to return. One writer analyzing this battle says that the Muslims, under the caliphate of Hazrat Abu Bakr, for the first time fought both the Byzantines and the Persians and the Arab tribes all together. Despite this, the Muslims gained a phenomenal victory, and without doubt this is a historical victory in the battle and amongst the most prominent victories in history of armies. Although it is not as well known as other battles, or it is not as well known, but anyhow, the disbelievers' internal authority was broken, whether linked to Persia or linked to the Byzantines in Rome, or to Iraq. Khalid Saifullah in Iraq, the this was the final of the great victories. After this, the Persians were completely defeated, and after this, they could not gain any such strength which would fear the Muslims, cause the Muslims to fear. One historian, regarding the importance of the Battle of Firaz, said that from Ulas, after the Muslims gaining victory there, the Persian armies were defeated. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid continued his expeditions, and to Amnisha, Hira, Ambar, Tamar, and Domatul Jundal, he conquered them all. And then finally he reached to Firaz. Firaz was near to Euphrates River, a city which was very near to the border of the emperorship of the Byzantines. The Byzantines, the Persians, and the Christian tribes, all the armies united together against the Muslims. But Hazrat Khalid bin Walid, with great strategy, was able to defeat this united front of the enemies. Hazrat Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid, in 1 year, 2 months, was able to conquer Iraq. And there were 10,000 soldiers with him, and there were 10,000 with the other generals. And such a small army gained such a phenomenal victory is actually unparalleled in the annals of history. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid took part personally in every of these battles. He never had to suffer any defeat. From the door of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, he was given the title of Saifullah, the sword of Allah. And he fulfilled this title given to him by the Prophet. Then the localities he conquered, he did such a great strategy, and he was so loving, and he established such a good system that the local people loved them more than their own people in Persia. Firaz was the last of his great victories. For 10 days he remained in Firaz, and then he took half the army and went to Iraq. The last of the great victories in Iran. In Iraq, the victory of Iraq, we put one observation on it, and it is said this was a great victory and great progress. There the Muslims, to the Persian, who had a lot more power, strength, and army, they constantly defeated them. Remember that the Persian armies was considered one of the greatest armies and was filled with provisions for battles. This was such a great victory, the like of which we barely find in history. There is no doubt whatsoever that Hazrat Khalid bin Walid and his generals, this is their efforts that caused this. However, we cannot also deny this reality that in these victories and successes, Hazrat Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, what a glorious individual, also played a phenomenal role. History testifies that any general, and nobody could show such loyalty until to the caliph until the morals and the qualities of leadership of that leader was something that inspired them to show that loyalty, as Hazrat Khalid and his generals did to Hazrat Abu Bakr. From the time of the battles of apostasy and to the victory of Iraq, the personal example showed by Hazrat Abu Bakr, the steadfastness he displayed and the strategy he displayed, it displayed in the people of the Muslims in such a way that they were ready to make the greatest of sacrifices. Where all his instructions and guidances and advices were filled with wisdom, there his personal character also inspired so many people. No leader can show this steadfastness. What more can you show of the proof of the steadfastness that from the beginning until the end, no opportunity or occasion we saw where any of his instructions he ever changed as a result of any personal pressure or some other external influence. He always remained steadfast upon his personal decisions. And he also inspired in such a great sacrifice amongst the soldiers. And Hazrat Abu Bakr created a spirit of people thinking well of the Caliph, the like of which we never saw. We saw under him all the people, a way that they were inspired by him phenomenally. He also himself displayed great sacrifices. He showed great loyalty to his own people, and they reciprocated this. Like Siddiq Akbar, Hazrat Abu Bakr himself showed this example. Hazrat Khalid's own qualities were such that people count him amongst the greatest of generals of history. It is more appropriate to say Hazrat Khalid, the principles he displayed, they are unique in history. Hazrat Khalid's courage, valor, bravery, fairness and justice and success, and he created great skill amongst the Muslims. The movements he took place, he all did that with great wisdom. With both of these things, with his movements and wisdom and strategy, he showed great tolerance and courage till the end. And this was all because he never put his soldiers in such a great difficulty that he had not faced himself. Where Abu Bakr has a unique position in history as the first Khalifa, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid is also amongst the first of these generals and the Muslims who conquered the lands outside of the main Arab lands, and he was able to create a new era. Just like the Muslims, in the political and spiritual advice of Hazrat Abu Bakr, and through Hazrat Khalid was able to gain the land of one side of Iraq to the other in like a storm, gaining ground in a quick position. And now they were able to get this new ground, which is the Byzantines. This was regarding Hazrat Abu Bakr's time period, and inshallah, God willing, I will present things in the future. As I have said, some time extra would be made in this relating to the war has now come to an end. In the next Friday sermon, inshallah, God willing, Ahmadiyya Muslim Community United Kingdom will be starting their Jalsa Salana annual convention. Pray that this was blessed in every respect. To those who are participating, who are coming here, may their journeys be safe, and may they come. And the people who are going to perform their responsibilities and duties, may Allah the Almighty enable them to fulfill their responsibilities in the correct manner. Pray for them as well. Because after a gap of 2 or 3 years, there is a large Jalsa taking place for the first time. Last year there was a very small Jalsa, but now there is a full-scale Jalsa taking place. So there will be some teething issues and problems that arise. Whatever problems that we see that arise from the arrangements, our organizers, may Allah cause them to go away.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله عباد الله رحمكم الله عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر